Now, the 2011 to 2012 season was nothing short of a cinematic masterpiece. Throughout this season, we witnessed impossible comebacks, career-defining moments, and monumental success matches that happened that still resonate with us to this day. So let's take a trip back to this time and discuss what made the 2011 to 2012 season so iconic. Now, starting off with a moment that actually happened at the end of the Premier League season, we have to talk about that Agüerooooo goal, with this moment honestly defining the Premier League May 13th, 2012 in a game between Manchester City and Queen's Park Rangers, with this game being the final game of the season, which was a must-win for Manchester City. This win would begin a dynasty in Manchester City history, winning them their first title in 44 years. Now, even though Pablo Zabaleta put Manchester City ahead in the game, it wasn't so smooth sailing as City saw themselves 2-1 down, with Gibro CS scoring and Jamie Mackey with these goals scored either side of a Joey Barton red card. A chaotic moment in this match took place with Joey Barton, kicking, pulling, headbutting, and elbowing these Manchester City players. It was a moment of madness which sent the game into a spiral, with these QPR players actually getting under the skin of Manchester City. Joey Barton was then sent off, and QPR scored a goal, and Man City fans thought it was all over, with Manchester United fans celebrating in their stadium, but creeping ever so slowly into the dying embers of the game. Eden Gio showed up with a header late on in the game to bring Manchester City level with QPR, but it wasn't this goal that would seal them the title. It was an Argentinian Smurf that stepped up, an icon of the game and one of the best strikers in Premier League history. After being played in by Mario Balotelli, Sergio Agüero scored a goal in the 93rd minute of the game, sealing them the title and reigning on the parade of Manchester United. Manchester City won the Premier League on the final day via goal difference, making this moment the only time in Premier League history where that's been the case. Man City had 44 shots and 81% possession in this game. Now, whilst the end of this season was so amazing, there was also this incredible Champions League run that Chelsea went on, and this was one of the most improbable runs in Champions League history. Chelsea was in the semi-final, and that semi-final was against Barcelona, which Chelsea in the first leg actually toppled over thanks to the brilliance of Drogba. This guy scored the only goal in the game, winning Chelsea the game 1-0, but going into the second leg, Chelsea fans were a bit cautious, and that's because they weren't coming up against any Barcelona side. This Barcelona side had Qatar Foundation Messi, who was on a streak of 1 billion goals this season. The socially inept Smurf absolutely ran the show in the game, but it was actually Busquets who opened the scoring. Chelsea were now 1-0 down, and the only thing they could do was pray. And what did God give them? He gave them a red card to John Terry. Well, maybe it wasn't, the Lord's doing, but John Terry absolutely bottled the game and got sent off for a challenge. And just because Chelsea fans are crying didn't mean that the Barcelona attack would stop, with Messi passing to Iniesta, who slaughtered it into the back of the net, making it 2-0 on the Knights and 2-1 on aggregate. But this Chelsea side would be handed a miracle, because where they looked like they would score, Lampard threading the ball in between the Barcelona defense to Ramirez, who casually dinked the ball over Victor Valdez and tied up the game. Now going into halftime, Chelsea must have had the best halftime speech, because when they came out for that second half, what do you think they did? They actually gave away a penalty, and who else? But Messi would step up against Peter Cech to kind of tip the favor onto Barcelona's side in the game. He stepped up and did the inevitable. He hit the post. Messi season 91 goals. Well, he missed the most important goal. Yeah, he missed the penalty, and after being battered for 90 minutes by these Barcelona players, completely played off the park. Chelsea, in the dying embers of the game, were handed a miracle with a clearance going to who else but Fernando Torres, and with no one else beside him, Fernando Torres saw the goal, saw Victor Valdez, and said, "I'm going past your bald-headed self, most overrated goalkeeper in the history of Spanish football," and tapped it into the back of the net, sealing the win for Chelsea side. Chelsea going into this final, because not only were they playing a Bayern Munich side filled with some of the best players in the world, but this final was also taking place at Bayern Munich's home stadium. And after going 1-0 down in the final, again it was like this Chelsea side, they never really and truly gave up, and it was an 88th minute equalizer by Didier Drogba via header. It would finish 1-1. In the 90 minutes it would go all the way to extra time, and then it would be decided by a penalty shootout, with Mr. Helmet himself, Peter Cech, saving a penalty from Arjen Robben in the extra time and then saving 2 in the shootout, and Drogba would score the final penalty in the game, sealing the Champions League for Chelsea fans. And in my opinion, this is one of my favorite underdog stories in the Champions League, as much as I do hate Chelsea because my brother supports them now during this season. We also had Messi scoring 91 goals in a calendar year. Messi scored 50 league goals, which is a record that still stands to this day, but still Barcelona didn't win La Liga that year. It was actually Real Madrid that won with a record-breaking campaign. It was Real Madrid Madrid's first La Liga since 2008 with a record of 100 points, with this Real Madrid side under the managerial constructs of Jose Mourinho scoring 121 goals in La Liga, a record at the time. Cristiano Ronaldo also scored 46 league goals that season too, and their title-clinching moment came in April of 2012 with a 2-1 victory over Barcelona. But it wasn't just Cristiano Ronaldo this season that stepped up for Real Madrid, because Karim Benzema scored 32 goals and got 19 assists that season as well. And then you also had the brilliance of Mesut Ozil, who got 19 assists, and in 2012 you also had the brilliance of Dortmund under Jurgen Klopp. This side were thriving and honestly a breath of fresh air in the Bundesliga at the time, with Dortmund defending their title 8 points ahead of Bayern Munich with this young energetic squad of gems, the likes of Lewandowski, who got 22 goals that season, of course Mats Hummels, who was an absolute mountain in that defensive line. Dortmund also embarrassed Bayern 5-2 in the DFB Pokal, with Lewandowski scoring a hat-trick against a club that eventually in his future he would join. But the Premier League was amazing, the Champions League was amazing, the Bundesliga was living up to expectations, but in the French League, Montpellier, of all teams winning the league, this was their first ever French League title, and they edged out PSG by just 3 points. And if you didn't know already, this was where we saw the breakout season of Olivier Giroud, guy that scored 21 goals in the league that season and eventually would make a move to the Arsenal. And talking about strikers, let's quickly go back to the Premier League, because even though Agüerooooo scored the final goal of the season and they were battling with Wayne Rooney's Manchester United, it was Robin van Persie that got the Golden Boot that season with 39 goals in the Premier League alone. 2012 was also the year that Atletico Madrid absolutely demolished BB 3-0 in the Europa League final, with a breakout player in the tournament being Radamel Falcao, who scored 12 goals throughout it and a brace in the final. This again, like many other teams, it was the rise of Atletico Madrid underneath Diego Simeone where that dynasty would begin, and they will go on to see so much success. And let's go back to France now and mention that even though Montpellier won the league just ahead of PSG, it was a player from Lille that lit up the league that season, with the Player of the Year award going to Eden Hazard, who scored 20 goals and got 15 assists that season, setting the stage for a move to Chelsea. In Italy, we had Juventus reclaiming the Serie A with an incredible unbeaten run. Now, the 2011/12 season was one of the most perfect seasons in footballing history, but in my opinion, every season is good. You know, if football's on, then football is good. So now tell me that what was your favorite moment from this season, and don't forget to subscribe.